what's up everybody? It's Lyds, and we're back for some more Thronebreaker, and we finally took down the Neckers that have been haunting me in my dreams, but alas, they have been defeated. And, of course, after having done so, we are on 999 coins, but we can't quite get to that 1,000 coin mark. Hopefully, we will reach that soon with maybe just some stuff on the side of the road, some scraps, because I imagine there are probably some upgrades that we can purchase once we do reach that threshold. But as for what we have planned for today, I think we're just heading forward in this direction here, looking for probably this puzzle or anything else in this general area. Suppose there's maybe a non-zero chance to make it all the way over to this battle as well, but I don't think we're going to make it all the way up to the main quest just yet. But we shall see. We shall see. There is a fast travel spot here. Honestly, I always forget these exist, but I mean, even less reason to get that upgrade that costs a whole bunch to increase Meve's movement speed when, I mean, why not just do this? Problem solved. The whole burning city part. That problem, not solved. But let's carry on here. We have seen a bit of this. Yeah. What happens if we step on the fire? Can we? It just won't let us? Okay. Okay, I was kind of curious if we were going to get this tragic game over. Ooh, please. No, no, bleh. But, no, alas, did not happen. I think we might have even started going in this direction a bit. But, there might have been resources there, I think. We nabbed them, but alas, we have already taken them, and now they are no longer available to us. Looks like we're going to need to snake around here a little bit to find a way through. And, looks like this might be the path to do that. There's the puzzle over here. One that we are... Oh. Predicting that we might want to do. So it's a golem. This time would appear to be a fiery golem. Yeah. I suppose... I mean, it's the puzzle we were expecting, right? That it is. That it is. So, in that case, let's go for it. Oh, also... It is fitting that in this corner of the map in particular, where everything is on fire, the little decoration here is also fire. Coincidence? I don't know. I don't know. But anyways, let's see. We had some trouble last time we had a golem puzzle, but we shall see this time around. So let's see. Born of Fire. Though humankind has harnessed the power of fire, there remains a deep primal fear of it, and rightly so. For when this element spirals out of control, consequences can prove catastrophic. I refer not to a wildfire, no. Of course, the fire, or the city around us is currently completely in flames, completely destroyed, but no, there's something far, far worse than that. So, let's see, our objective here, because of course, it is a puzzle. We've had a few just outright battles in which we were just focusing on outscoring our opponent, but this time we have a specific objective with different rules. Place both elementals on the same row and make their power equal. That seems like a very strange set of criteria to meet. But, sure. I guess. So it is a puzzle. Those are the special rules. It will be just one round. So let's see what the deal is here. So we need both elementals in the same row and make their power equal. So the thing is, one of them is on 2 power, and the other one is on 25 power, but they're not the same. One is an absorptive elemental, one is an incendiary elemental. So this guy, after 2 turns on turn start, absorb the fire opposite the row and double this unit's power. Huh. Absorb the fire on the opposite row. Does that mean the fire quite literally goes away? And then double your power. This one, after 2 turns on turn start, spawn fire on the opposite row, then have this unit's power. Okay, and then whenever this unit takes damage, move it to the other row. Oh, man. The math. The math. Oh, there's a lot of it. There's a lot of math in this one. I mean, sure, it's just doubling in one case and halving in the other. It's just multiplying by 2, dividing by 2. Yes, but bear in mind, you also need to consider when and where the fire is going to take effect or not take effect. And we have a bunch of damage with our Arbalists, and hold on, we have a Regiment Drummer, play the top Blitz unit from our deck. Are they all going to be more Arbalists? Not necessarily, so that is not guaranteed what we're going to get there. And then Decoy to potentially either replay the Regiment Drummer or replay an Arbalist. So, oh man. Oh man. I feel like this one just requires a pen and paper to just map out, solve this algebraically. Because without that, I feel like this is significantly more difficult. So we cannot boost this Absorptive Elemental in order to increase the amount it doubles itself by. So what we really need to do is damage appropriately. And so I'm thinking, we definitely want you on an even number because you're always going to be on an even number. So I'm thinking our first play is a simple Lyria and Arbalist, damage you by 1. Oh, but every time you get damaged, yeah, move to the other row. Okay, so I mean, we'll see. That may have been a mistake. I'm not sure. Okay, so there's no fire at the moment. Remind me how they get the fire. After 2 turns on turn start, absorb the fire. So this is only every 2 turns. It's also only every 2 turns. But the thing is that you move when you get damaged, whereas you do not. No, you do as well. Okay. So, like, do we need everything to be... We need everything to be... This is gonna be tough. Let's see. Let's... Damage... to get you back in the same row. I feel like that's a misplay, though, because when you get doubled, you're gonna go, basically... I'm forgetting what the math term for this is, but powers of 2. You know, this is going to always be a power of 2, or if we damage it at some point, then it gets harder to know exactly what it's going to turn into. But, let's see. So, let's see. 2, 4, 8, 16, 32. I'm thinking we're going to want to have them meet at... Oh. I mean, 16 is going to be tough. Hold on. Because now you're lower than 16. So that means it would need to be 8. And you're going to get boosted up to an 8 on your next turn. So that means... I think that's fine for you. We need to be very protective of you and get you to 8 power here. So what we do is this. We go... Move you to the other row. Get you to 8. That way you are not going to have your power. Oh, but we're gonna need to move you again because you're gonna otherwise you're gonna have yourself down. Okay, no, we're gonna have damage this guy for too much, I think. Except no, we won. Except I forgot we don't need to wait until the last turn to meet the criteria. That works as it turns out. For some reason, I thought we needed to play exactly all the cards in our hand, but no, that did work. So there you go. There you go. I mean, wasn't exactly, I wouldn't call it an accidental victory because that was intended. It was just that I thought that we're going to have to bide some time somehow for 2 or 3 additional turns and somehow still keep them on even amounts of points, and that's where I was thinking, like, oh no. I mean, they're going to be fine on their next turn, yes, but then 2 turns from now, the one in the melee row is going to damage itself, and then it's not going to work, and we're going to fail. And then, well, no. Don't need to do that. But anyways, we found a letter from Mladen Vorto, Court Mage, to His Excellency, King Demavend. Okay, so that is the Eternian King, and presumably this is the Court Mage for Demavend, not a Nilfgaardian. Your Majesty, our reconnaissance has confirmed eyewitness reports. Disturbances in elemental equilibrium near places of power, you should draw from it, have resulted in the sudden appearance of fire elementals. This may be the handiwork of our enemy, a part of their strategy. I will attempt to restrain the creatures before the situation gets out of control. I await further orders. Yeah, so, is this entire city on fire because you failed to control the elemental, the golem? Or are those two things independent from one another? There just happens to be a golem right next to this city that is completely in ashes. I bet it is not a coincidence. Let's see. So we've got the loot. We completed that encounter fairly quickly at that. So I think we have time to head over to this battle and check this out. Of course, no idea if we'll run into anything else in the meantime. We also do have over 1,000 coins now. I think they're worth...
The high road.
Oh?
The earth furrowed by wheels, hooves. The Black Clouds went at Rosberg with all their strength. An ominous sign.
For Nilfgaard, I'd say. The fortress boasts 2 new towers, a deeper moat, gate of raw iron. It cannot be taken.
I mean, Rayla, I'd love to believe you, but I feel like, given Nilfgaard's success thus far, I don't think we can really bet against them. And given all the destruction we've seen, that, I mean, Nilfgaard may not need to immediately take Rosberg, but if you siege that place, lock it down, it's not like they're going to be getting any additional sources of supplies from neighboring areas, because there are none. So, yeah, at least with a war of attrition, I think the Nilfgaardians probably win. Although, then the Nilfgaardians need to replenish their supplies, but, I mean, they've got huge amounts of troops and presumably supply chains as well to supply those troops, so who knows? But, anyways, carry on here for the battle. Oh, and I think we were talking about the gold, and although we do have over 1,000 now, which I imagine means we can afford at least something, I think we saw that most of the upgrades we were most interested in picking up were going to cost us more than just 1,000 gold. They're going to cost us a fair bit more than that. Either 1,500 or potentially even 2,000. Let's see, there is... Okay, this battle is in here, apparently. I see the golden chest. For a second, I was wondering, is this even Rosberg? Because this is not a huge wall with a big moat and what have you, but this does look like a fortification of some significance. Oh. So, those look like ghouls, and those ghouls appear to be guarding that chest. Yeah, it does look like the fire stops as soon as we go away from that whole golem area, so I think that further reinforces the theory that it was the golem that started that. All right, let's just do a quick check and see if there is anything, now that we have 1,000 gold, that may be worth upgrading. I don't think there is, or, if there is anything that we can afford, and there probably is at least something. I just don't think it's worth doing. Like, this would be great to increase our recruit cap, but we can't afford that yet. This, training grounds, we cannot yet afford. Nor can we afford either of those. There's nothing further. Yeah, we can't do anything further down. Over here, we can afford increasing Meve's movement speed, but I was saying previously how I kind of think that is useless, especially because we can use fast travel spots. We cannot yet afford this. This would probably be the first thing we'd be able to afford that we could potentially justify buying, although I'm still not sure that's my top priority. I'm kind of eyeing the recruit cap increase, perhaps above all else right now. But, do you have an update at the command tent? We picked up a new card from completing that encounter. As I was saying previously, though, I think we are, in fact, above our recruit cap, so technically speaking, we are not supposed to be allowed to use this deck right now, so yeah. Let's see. So the card we picked up was this. Dosbog Runestone. Damage a unit by 1. Use this ability 8 times. So basically, damage a single unit 8 separate times, which is a total of 8 damage, of course, but can, depending on other cards, potentially synergize with them more because it's 8 separate pings of damage. If you have something that gets boosted or deals additional damage whenever an opponent gets damaged, that's obviously happening 8 times in one turn, which could be nice. Although, don't really think we have any of those cards. Don't really think we have anything that benefits from that. I feel like in many ways it's just sort of a weaker Lyrian Horn, or at least in many cases would be a weaker Lyrian Horn. Still feeling like we'd probably like to get rid of Reynard. But alas, I'm not sure we can make any changes to this deck without the game getting mad at us for being over our provision limit. So, I mean, even if we got rid of Reynard, technically we have one more card in our deck than we need to have. Then we would be down at 133, we'd still be over. So, let's see, do the trinkets count as a card included in our deck? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 slingers. 9, 11, 16, 21, 23, 25, no? Wait, what? I probably miscounted. That must be 26, right? Probably miscounted. The dreaded doing math / counting when recording yourself. Everyone's worst nightmare. You will inevitably make a mistake. But, alas. See, like, even with that, also, apparently I did the math wrong here as well. Didn't I say 133? It's 134. So, Lid's bad math continues. But, see, like, even with this, we're still over the limit, so if we try to exit out, we can say exit and lose changes, so we are still over the limit, make no mistake. But, that way we at least avoid having to further weaken our deck, even if we still have what is basically a dead card. Not quite a dead card with Reynard, because he is just a 10-point unit, I think. But outside of that, he's not really helping us all that much. So anyways, let's check out this battle here. Of course, we've at times had trouble with ghouls and neckers and what have you, so we'll see what we have in store here. New roots. Contrary to popular belief, neckers are fairly intelligent creatures, really. At least intelligent enough to recognize the strategic importance of an abandoned Nilfgaardian camp. These beasts had found a new lair, well protected by a palisade. Only, they gave no thought to closing the gate. Oh. Well done, guys. Alright, so it's just a straightforward battle. Should be 3 rounds. And just outscore our opponent. No special rules or anything like that, although we'll want to see if we can figure out anything special they might throw at us. Let's see. Bloodthirsty Alghoul. Consume the top unit in your graveyard and spawn a base copy of it. Do that 3 separate times. That is really strong. Really strong. Means we, in many ways, like to not destroy their strong units or deliberately destroy their weaker units when we know they're going to be using that ability on their next turn. So, okay. Of course, if we are expecting Neckers, then we know they are likely going to flood their rows with those, which means the fire was really effective against those previously. So I'd love to see the Strays Bomber. The Strays Cavalry, if we get other Necrophages like the Rot Fiends, really good against those. Slingers can also be helpful to jam up their rows, so I'd like that too. I think we might want to get rid of the Scytheman. Now the Strays Cavalry sounds great. And then the Infiltrator is a little bit tough as well. Does potentially buff up Gascon, yes, but I think we'd prefer to focus on the Slingers doing that type of thing instead. And okay, there we go. Perfect. I think we stick with this. Okay. So, what do we do first? I think we probably set a row on fire. With our previous Necker encounter, we saw our opponent play all their Neckers in the melee row pretty consistently. So, I don't know if our opponents, whenever they play Neckers, if they, for some reason, always play them in the melee row, in which case, let's set the melee row on fire. If not, then flip a coin, set a row on fire based on the outcome. I mean, who knows? Either way, I think we have perhaps slightly more reason to think that the melee row is the right row to set on fire. So, let's go with that.
Watch your heads!
I think that is the best play, because otherwise we're playing a unit that would damage other units, and we don't have a way to do that. So I love how they did play Necker on their first turn. They did play it in the range row, though. I was going to say you could make the counter-argument that, well, it's maybe the game is just going to try to trick you and play all the Neckers in the melee row in one encounter, and then the next one, play them in the range row, just to mess with your head. Well, game, congratulations, you succeeded. So, here's the thing. We could move it into the melee row using our Stray Slinger. If we do that, however, we move 3 cards. That means we move you. There's only one opposing unit, so we'll move you and damage you by 2. That's fine. We will move our Manticore, or Manticore Trophy, because at least we're not damaging ourselves in that case. But it does mean we, as our 3rd unit moved, need to move the Stray's Bomber, and so we are damaging at least this guy by 2, which is not ideal. So, if we bear in mind that we also have our Leader ability here to deal 4 damage, means we just need 1. If we combine that with Slinger, that is enough to just destroy it altogether. So, I don't know. Either way, it's overkill / backfiring the damage on us, some friendly fire. I think we still go for it, though. I think we still do it. Technically speaking, we are damaging ourselves by 2 with this bomber, but we are also getting 1 additional boost from Gascon, even when we're moving this guy, so it should be on net only a 1 point loss from having to move him. Then let's make sure that we do this. I mean, it is overkill, for sure, but it does guarantee that we get rid of it. And there is something to be said for that. Okay, now the Necker Warrior will summon, or at least spawn, more of those Neckers in their deck. And so we probably mark you, is what we want to do. Let's do that. Big unit. We'll have plenty of time to deal a lot of damage to it. And again, we eventually, perhaps, would like to use Stray Slingers to move people back into this row that's on fire. But we'd like to wait until they have more units out there, so we don't have to have it all backfire on us. And they do use their Leader ability to consume and replay the Necker, but they played it in the melee row, so that's perfect. They also got out this Ancient Fog that I'm not sure if we've seen this before. Spawn Impenetrable Fog on any row. They went with our range row. What does this do? Every turn on turn start, damage the highest unit on this row by 2. Is that the same as it is in multiplayer, Gwent? It might be. It's not that powerful. Just a consistent 2 points of damage per turn, which is, at least at the moment, stronger than fire, because fire is only a 33% chance of dealing 2 damage. But if they flood this row with a whole bunch of Neckers, then it's a 33% chance for every unit individually, in which case we could get far more than 2 damage per turn. But they do now have 3 units, so we could once again play a Stray Slinger, but this time we could actually exclusively damage our opponent, which would be nice. The thing with that is we'd be using a fair bit of Stray Slingers, and they are definitely some of our key cards against these guys, it seems. But, you know, that might be worth doing, because it would destroy the Necker, and that would mean they'd have a weak unit in their graveyard. So once again, if they want to use their Leader ability, they're going to be on cooldown for a little while here, but they're going to have a weak unit, so it's not going to be a huge factor if they do it. And then it moves these guys into the row that's on fire, which is, of course, where we'd like for them to have more units. So, you know, I think we go for it. It is kind of aggressive. It is kind of aggressive, but I think it's probably worth doing. And it just passed quickly. So, ooh. That was kind of devious. Kind of devious, because we were tied at 17, which don't think this is start of our turn, right? Every turn on turn start damaged by 2, so yeah, we're not going to get damaged anymore. The fire, I don't believe, is going to have time to damage them either, because they've already passed. That means if we were to pass here, we would quite literally tie at 17. What happens if we tie at 17 means that round 2 becomes a round of sudden death. So, everything or nothing? I don't think we want to do that, though, especially because, as is often the case here, we can play 2 more cards and then dry pass in round 2, and we'll take the round 1 win, and then, well, is that really any better? Because then, I mean, either way, it's just a matter of round 2. If we pass now, it's round 2, everything or nothing. We continue to play more cards, then it's just round 3, everything or nothing. We could potentially bleed out some of their better cards in round 2 in the meantime, though. yeah. I think it's still better to play one more card, especially if we have a relatively weak one, which... we kind of don't, is the thing. What I would love would be, well... What I would love to do would be decoy one of our units, get it back into our hand, so that we can play it in a future round, and then just have the fire be enough for us to win after that. However, that may not be sufficient, because we will take 2 damage from fog on our next turn, and we're going to lose some power when we put a card back into our hand. So I think if we want to win this round, we do legitimately need to play something that is a little more significant than that. A little bit more significant than decoy, which is a net 0-point play. So I think we probably do play cavalry. We want to keep some of our slingers. This should definitely be enough. So we win round 1. We still have 5 cards, which means we can play 1 in round 2 and just 1 in round 2 if we'd like. And that is a way to potentially say, let's see, we should have 8, right? 1, 2, 3, 4 times 2, 8, yeah. So we can play one of our weaker cards, thin it out, if you will. And so I'm looking at cards like the Alchemist could potentially be a way to do that, although, if we get enough movement to continue to boost up Gascon, then he's actually going to get pretty big, and Alchemist is a way to make another card equally big as Gascon, so that may actually be worth keeping. In which case, the Infiltrator could potentially be our throwaway. It's not great in this matchup specifically, so that might be the best way to go about using that card. Either that or we try to mulligan it right now, but let's try to save those for round 3. I think we stick with this. And we are going to do what is a silly play, because we don't intend to win this round. We are going to play Stratus Infiltrator on their side when there are no cards on their side. So at least as things currently stand, there's nothing that's going to boost it. But we're just playing it because it forces our opponent to play something here, and this time it's a Necker. And so now we would pass, and sure, we'll get the Stratus Infiltrator back, and he's not going to get a boost, but that doesn't matter, because again, we're just trying to get rid of our weakest card. We're not actually trying to win in round 2, and we're hoping that as we're playing one of our weaker cards, that our opponent actually plays one of their bigger cards. But, well, I mean, we could use our leader ability and then play something here and try to go for the win, but we have 1 less card than our opponent, so we definitely have a distinct disadvantage if we were to try to do that. And either way, even if they are to pass here, they are going to get more of those Neckers out from their deck onto the playing field. They can spawn more, I believe, but potentially could weaken them a little bit long term. They had to discard a couple of what might have been some of their bigger cards. We drew into, what was it? Another Infiltrator, which, I mean, at this point, obviously we played one in the previous round, but I think this one will just mulligan altogether. We draw into the Scytheman, I think we may have. I mean, if this opponent has quite literally an identical deck to what we just saw with the Neckers, then the Scytheman is not a great answer. So we're probably going to dump him. I think we are going to get rid of that Infiltrator. Get another Cavalry is probably a good thing. I think we dump you. And, okay, Bomber is definitely big, especially because that makes it a very good target for Decoy. That way we can play it, set 1 row on fire, Decoy to get it back, and set another row on fire. So that's probably going to mean this is the hand we're going to want to go with. And again, we'll use the Alchemist to set another one of our own units to the same amount of power that Gascon has, because with 3 Slingers, that's a lot more movement that we're going to be able to do. And that should mean that Gascon will get pretty big. Let's see. So it's a Foglet first. Every turn on turn end, boost self. Boost self by 1 if Impenetrable Fog is on the battlefield. When this unit's power surpasses 6, spawn a Foglet only once. Excuse me? Except the Foglet can then spawn another Foglet, so it's similar to what we were seeing previously with those neckers, just a slightly different way in which it's happening. But at the end of the day, the result is quite similar. They're just getting a bunch of weak units in the same row. So I think either way, we're probably looking for the same solution here, is one of two things. Either completely fill one of their rows earlier than they'd like to, preventing them from spawning in additional foglets, and potentially even preventing them from playing additional cards, or setting those rows on fire and just having a whole bunch of units to damage. So I think, given how there aren't a lot of units out there right now, let's start with the fire, and that means you set this on fire right now. And in some ways, we actually don't want those to get destroyed. That way the rows get filled more quickly. Like foglets and neckers, as we were saying, both of them are going to have a very similar outcome here. So we could... Oh, we also had our leader ability, which we... I mean, we could have used to damage one of them. Yes, in fact, we definitely will damage this foglet and get rid of it, because in doing so, this foglet has already used its ability. You can only do it once. You get rid of this one, this is the only one that's capable of duplicating the foglet. So... Oh, but it only happens when its power surpasses 6. I mean, that may still happen if they have other sources of it generating impenetrable fog. So yeah, I think we do want to go leader ability to get rid of this. And then, in terms of the actual card that we want to play, I mean, we could do some movement, get a couple more cards into their flaming row, or we could just decoy. Maybe we decoy to replay the bomber, set both rows on fire. That's probably the way to go. So let's do this. Get rid of you. That should, at least for the moment, cut down their foglet spawning. We'll see if they could very well have more. But let's now decoy on you. And either next turn or sometime soon, we'll set this row on fire as well. Okay, so there is another foglet. Okay, this is not the kind... This is an ancient foglet, not a normal foglet. So yes, it does create impenetrable fog, which would have been the way that they would get the foglets boosted, which would have been the way they would spawn additional foglets, but we successfully, at least for the moment, shut that down using our leader ability. So that's good. Now I think we either set this row on fire or we move a bunch of these guys into this row to try to fill it up. And suppose, technically speaking, it is slightly better to set this row on fire as quickly as possible. So let's do that. And let's also deliberately not play any units in this row that has the fog on it, where it will get damaged. So continue to get more neckers out there, but they will get damaged. Okay, and well, naturally, they spawn the fog on the other row as well, so they're double fog, we're double fire. As I think I was saying before, I think technically the fire should be better, especially when they have a bunch of units out there. So now, let's see. The slinger is what I was thinking we might use next. Move units. I mean, initially we were saying we would move these guys into this row to try to fill this, although now it's looking more like we want to do the opposite. Move you over here. But then, with our two other remaining movements, what would we go with? We either need to move you guys into this row, and that kind of defeats the purpose of filling this row, or we need to move this Manticore trophy, which, although it doesn't apply damage to ourselves, it also doesn't apply damage to our opponents, so it's not great in that sense. Maybe we just go with the Strays Cavalry. We do have several of them, or we have at least a couple of them right now, so although it is a card that we'd like to save if they have, say, a Rot Fiend, maybe we go with this, and we hit this foglet. We try to keep this row as full as possible, and then depending on where they play additional units, we may move those. But yeah, now that melee row is completely full, we definitely want to destroy this. And possibly this. Hold on, what do you do? Grave Hag. Every 2 turns on turn start, consume the top unit from your graveyard. So I think, in this case, consume does quite literally mean It is going to absorb power from those units, eat a unit, and boost Spy's power. Yeah. For some reason, it seemed like previously we saw a card that consumed but did not gain power from it. It did some other thing instead. But, okay. Let's see. So now, this row is full. That means those Neckers are no longer doing anything special, at least until the fire actually takes one of them out, which could end up happening. But, we could deliberately, if we wanted to, actually move some of these Neckers over to their range row and deliberately allow them to spawn in more, so that that way they don't have room for more powerful cards like, say, the Grave Hag. And if we were to do that, we'd want to make sure we move at least one Necker, possibly two. And we'd want to move the ones that are more than 2 power, that way they don't immediately get destroyed from the 2 damage from the Slinger. That might be an interesting option. I'm intrigued by that. Let's go for it. So, we want to move you. Probably you, to tell you the truth, even if you have the armor. In many ways, that's why I'm doing it. I think we do want to keep at least some Neckers here so that this row does get full as well. But, if we have this guy, then it'll be 3 and 3. Yeah, let's go for that. So now, the hope is, I mean, they're potentially going to run out of Neckers in their deck. But we're trying to make it so that they just completely run out of room, which is almost the case. It is the case in their range row. They're almost out of space in their melee row, and they just spawn in more Neckers into their deck, which means they will be able to get more out from their deck to fill this row as well. So I like that. I like that. It means that they may not be able to play any more cards, at least until the Neckers get destroyed by fire, which probably will end up happening at some point. But, why don't we? Let's mark you. I don't think we're going to have the ability to actually remove you, or at least it's unlikely. Mark is going to only deal 1 damage per turn, and then we'd love if the fire consistently hits you, but of course, we can't guarantee that. So let's go for it. I'm deliberately playing units in the same row. That is usually what you want to do when there is a row effect like this that only affects 1 unit per row. That way, only 1 unit is getting hit every turn, rather than having 2 units get hit every turn. Okay, so yeah, some of those Neckers did get destroyed. More consumption. I mean, the fire is really adding up here, though. We do have room to move some things now, if we'd like to. And... I mean, with the Necker count in either row would suggest that they will fill their rows. So I don't really think we need to do anything special with those Neckers. I mean, the fire, again, may very well end up destroying some of them. But, we could move... Actually, you're almost down. In fact, we have our leader ability back. Ooh, which we could use. Target 4 would destroy a lot. It'd destroy you, you, and you. 5 would hit more targets. Technically, 5 is more damage. Would potentially be enough to destroy this Foglet, which is also potentially capable of spawning additional units. But, I think we might want to go with 5 after all. I think we do that. There are a lot of 5s. And then we could, if we wanted to get really clever, we could move a Grave Hag over to a different row, and then when we do that, it'll take the rightmost spot in this row, which means suddenly this Necker would be to the left of it, which means we could use the Alchemist to reduce this Grave Hag's power. Potentially the fire would then have enough damage to destroy it, or to mark. Still not sure that's the best play. I think the best play may still be to use it to set another one of our own units the same power as Gascon. But either way, we need to do something here with some of these cards that we've been trying to hold on to. Like the Slingers. Let's see, if we play you,
Ever have a storm knock out one of your teeth?
I suppose there's no reason not to target you. Then I think we do you. And then I think we're not going to have space to move anything else. Or order of operations usually goes melee row first. I think this would get moved to the range row. Means that the range row would be full, the melee row would not. So then you would get moved, you'd have space, and then because this is moving, there'd be room for one more card to move into the melee row. If I have my order of operations correct here, which I very well may not. We're going to see. It did work, as intended. Okay, very nice. So we still got 3 cards moved and damaged 3 enemy units in the process. Fire, continuing to do a whole lot of work here. They will trigger their leader ability. Okay, that Rotfiend is a card that we really want to destroy, though, which is unfortunate because, as we saw previous time, we faced enemies that had basically the same deck or something very similar to those deckers. They did a good job of waiting to play it as late as possible when we've already used a lot of our damage, although could potentially be reason to go with the Alchemist here. Let's see, are we gonna have one more round of our leader ability, or are we gonna be 1 turn shy? I think we're gonna be 1 turn shy, if I'm not mistaken. But, I mean, if we did, obviously we'd probably want to hit the Rotfiend, and in doing so, that might drop it low enough to take it out. But, So, how do we want to deal with this Rotfiend? If we do use the Alchemist on it, then we could very easily destroy it. And in doing so, eventually destroy every other card in this row, which would be great. Oh, also, there wasn't room to spawn a second Rotfiend, which would have been ideal. Oh, man. The deliberate row flooding actually bit us there, but, okay. I mean, it would still be enough damage triggering this alone to remove almost everything here. But I'm wondering if maybe we see if we can go Slinger again and just move and damage you and not rely on the Alchemist. If we do that, we're no longer going to have the option to set you to 1 power because you're going to be next to this Decker Warrior. Although we might be able to change that too. Hold on. I think we can change that. Let's go Slinger. First card we move is going to be you. Then, that means the melee row is going to have room for 1 more. Which means we move someone here, namely you, into that melee row. But it does mean that then we're not going to have any more room to move other units. Unless, or at least we're not going to be able to move the units we want to move. We want to have you in this row next to this Necker that's really weak. And as long as the fire doesn't destroy it, then we may still have the option of going Alchemist on this Rotfiend to weaken it. So in that case, let's move the Manticore Trophy, our last spot. There's the fire, and of course it does destroy that Necker. Really wish we had a card that got boosted for how much damage we've dealt or how many units we've destroyed, because that number is humongous. And continues to be humongous. The Rotfiend is already down to 6. So, it's... I mean, I suppose we've used most of our damage here. It's mostly just the fire we're relying on at this point, so... Don't know how feasible that is for us to actually get rid of it. Again, we could potentially go with the Alchemist to... set you down to 3. So it's either something with the Alchemist here. If we are to play the Alchemist next, that is what we would likely do. Or it's Gascon. Gascon would be the card that gets damaged by the Impenetrable Fog, without a doubt. Which means when we play the Alchemist, he'll be slightly weaker when he boosts one of our other units, but I think that is probably still the play. And then we're going to finish on Lyria and Horn, try to do that when they have as many units out there as possible. So if we do Gascon, we want him to be to the left of our weakest unit, so we want him to be right next to the Strays Bomber.
Coin never stinks, no matter how rank the
And that's already almost enough for us to catch them. Technically, we can move this as well. Let's do that before we forget. Boost up Gascon. Okay, is that their leader building as well? Another Rot Fiend. Okay. So, now we go with the Alchemist. We should still play you in this row. Then we do this.
I'm no mage.
We have definitely passed them here. They will continue to get more Neckers out there, but that's not a huge problem. Even if they do retake the lead here. Because, well, after the fire triggers, they are not in the lead. And we have the perfect counter to their wide strats here with all their units is just damage them all. And we did manage to take out one of those Rot Fiends. So there we go. Similar strategy to what we did when we faced those Neckers, because it was a similar deck we were going against, but both times we pull away with the victory. Alright, nice. So, let's loot things up a bit here, because we could certainly use those resources. Never mind the fact that, you know, we may or may not be looting human remains. You know, that's basically what you're doing whenever you're looting a dead body that you fight, right? Basically the same thing. But of course, last but not least, we have this big gold chest here. Oh, look at this though. We need a key for it. A key that we apparently, at least at the moment, do not have. So, not sure if we walked past a place where we would have found it, or if we just haven't yet encountered the place where we would acquire said key, but that is something we'll definitely want to keep a close eye out for, because that being said, we don't want to, say, waltz on over to the main quest here, which we are very close to, in Rosberg, and then potentially not even be able to come back here to get whatever it is that gives us the key and unlock this chest. Not sure if that would be the case, if that's a potential outcome, or if at any point in time we can double back and find where that key may or may not be. But either way, I think this is a good place for us to wrap up here. So thank you all for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll catch you next time.